Okay, dryer start up. Probably should not be trying to start a dryer at 4:30 in the afternoon when it's going to get dark. Right now I have the dryer filling and it seems to be putting corn in to the top, so it's just starting to mist drain a little bit here. Got my spraying for the year finished up and hopefully the last of the disc grip, and we had a couple fields we had a disc grip, which basically is just tillage, because it had gotten, well, the one farm was tiled and it was really rough from the tile runs, and then the second one was a farm that we were just struggling with in terms of compaction and some other issues. So pretty heavy perennial weed control problem in it, a lot of dandelions, so sprayed that field on the weekend. I don't know if it should be full already. Anyways, I sprayed that field last Friday and we were able to work it today. So primary tillage, hopefully with the disc gripper is done, spraying's done. Now time to conquer the dryer. I'll get a light in here. I screwed up. There's a fill timer on it and I should have changed it because it will take too long to fill it and it tripped out the timer. So somewhere in this display I gotta figure out where that is. Okay, I got some light in here. Some camping lights, some flashlights. I got corn in the top of the dryer and I'm just turning the application back on to start it because it took about about 15 minutes to fill the top, and what that does, it comes off the dryer time, and I think I need to have it sit in there for a little bit longer because it's very wet corn. Oh, it went right back to the random. Oh, hang on, I got some issues. I don't know what's going on with my generator, keeps kicking out. I can control the generator from this screen right here. So I just hit enable control, request start, and now it's running. And then I can start the leg. Start to reclaim. Oh, I gotta pick dryer autofill. By doing that, everything's now automatic to keep the dryer full whenever the dryer is gonna ask for corn. So as we dry corn, it tends to shrink a little bit. And it'll top it off, but also after it goes through a drying cycle, it'll dump corn and then it's got to refill. So then, because it's all set to automatic, it'll automatically put corn back on the top of the top dry. Okay, I'm having some issues with the dryer. The auger that goes out of the hopper bin or the overhead bin that feeds the wet corn into the leg that takes the wet corn up to the top of the top dry. It keeps hitting a motor overload. So what that means is that the motor is pulling too many amps, or it's trying to draw too much power versus what a special device is set for. So when it tries to pull more than it's set for, it kicks it off and says motor overload. So I just went in there and adjusted some settings on the overload device in the generator room, and I think that should stop the problem about tripping the motor overload issue with the auger that feeds the wet corn in. And now I just kind of fired up the dryer. We got it going pretty good. The issue that I had to figure out, it's kind of bright. The issue I had to figure out was to get the burners to cycle high-low. And when Horst came out in the summertime to set up for drying wheat, because the air temperature in the summer is so much warmer, they didn't have it cycle high-low, they had it on-off. So I had to hit a switch on here that would let the burner go hot for a bit, and then once it gets too hot, it kicks down to a lower burner temperature or lower setting, and it runs there until the temperature drops enough that it kicks it back up to high. So I got all those things set up. Everything looks really good. The natural gas is doing what it needs to do. We're getting the temperature we need to run the corn at to get it dry. I think we're doing pretty good so far. So I'm just going to kind of sit here and babysit it, but actually not a bad startup considering I've never run a dryer like this before. So far, fingers crossed, things look pretty good. So the burner dropped down into low. You can see it right there because that got up to like 183. It'll come down in temperature to about probably 179, 178. There, kick back into high. You can see it down here. And then it will go back up to like 183. And then it will kick back down to low. So that's when I say the burner cycles high and low. So what we're trying to do is maintain this temperature to be about 180 degrees on average. And as you can see, it kind of dropped down to 170, and now that, because it's in high, it's going to start going up again. And we just wait. There's a couple of adjustments I might have to do on top of the bin to do with the fill sensors. So there's sensors inside the bin that let the dryer controller know if there's corn in it and if there's enough corn in it. So there's a low corn sensor, which is not a problem. But the fill sensor might be a little bit too high. And as the corn dries, it shrinks. And so it's kind of being a little finicky where it's kind of trying to turn it on and off really quick to load corn into it. So I might have to raise up that sensor a little bit so that there's enough corn buried over it that it doesn't want to kind of turn on and off all the time really quick for a bit. So other than that, I think everything seems to be working pretty good. We got 26 minutes before we dump the first batch. It probably will be drying for 45 minutes or more. The first little bit of stuff that's going to get dumped is going to be pretty wet still, just because it hasn't had time to dry. But we'll kind of see how it goes. Do you ever have those days that you just don't want to go outside? It's kind of cold, wet, rainy, depressing. And then knowing that when you go outside, you actually have to climb a 115-foot leg just to flip a spout. I don't want to do it. Okay, I'm just mentally preparing myself to climb up the leg. I had to ship wheat this morning, and I have a valve I think I talked about where it can either go to the dryer bin or it can go to my distributor and go out to the other bins. Because we had to load wheat, I had to move it manually from going to the dryer bin to the distributor. So now if I want to keep drying corn, I actually have to go up the leg and flip it again. I just need a little part that can do it all electronically. I just kind of got rambunctious and forgot about it and realized that it would have been nice to add the part. So I'm going to climb it and switch it over and then start the dryer up. And then I gotta do some sheep chores because Sandy's gone today, so I gotta feed the sheep. And then I'll come back and kind of give you a bit more scoop. First thing I gotta do though is I'm gonna go hop inside the bin and grab a sample of corn to see what the moisture is that we dried already. It's a little dark in here, I apologize, but we're inside the bin and you can see there's kind of like a ring of corn around the bin here, and that's corn that got dried and dropped through the chutes at the top. So what I want to do now is just grab a couple handfuls along the edge here to just test the moisture and make sure that we're doing it properly. It had time last night to cool down, so when it dropped, it was roughly 132 degrees Fahrenheit. Because the fan was blowing overnight underneath the floor here, it was able to push cold air up through the corn and cool out and get rid of that extra heat. So now what I want to do is grab some samples so I can take a moisture of it and to see if we actually are getting dry corn out of this process. If it's too wet still, what we'll have to do is increase the temperature that we're drying to, and if it's too dry, we'll have to decrease that. But anyways, I'll just get these samples right now. $14.2. So not too bad for kind of a guess at things. I'll do a couple more of these and we'll just kind of average it out and see how it goes. So if I were to kind of average it out, it looks like we're running around 14% moisture on that dry corn in the bottom, which is pretty good. I'm happy about that. I think I might just shave back the drying temperature a little bit. The one good thing too we got to watch is if you dry corn too quick, you can lose test weight, and test weight really is very complicated because there's like epic battles around test weight in corn and test weight in crops. But basically what test weight is how many pounds there are in a bushel. And if you dry corn too hot too fast, you can actually impact test weight. So if you dry slower at a lower temperature, you can maintain a better test weight versus doing it hot and fast. So we try to strike a balance where we can dry fairly warm, but not too fast to impact test weight. So what I was looking at there when we was doing the moisture sample as well was were we changing test weight, and we were seeing about 2 pounds per bushel increase in test weight from wet corn to dry corn, which is good, which means that it's doing, the temperature is probably about right. We're not impacting test weight too much. So kind of happy with that setting. So I think what I'll do is climb the leg, switch the valve, and decrease the temperature just a little bit, probably like 2 degrees, and kind of see how that works out for us in terms of drying corn. It's 3:19 Wednesday afternoon, and it's been raining all day, but I guess I fired the dryer kind of around 1:30 there. Yeah, about 1:30. And it's been working pretty flawlessly. It's done, I think, 3 dump cycles, which basically a dump cycle takes anywhere from 32 to 40 minutes based on how long it takes the dryer to get the corn up to temperature. So I did have that initial grain temp set point set at 132. I dropped it down to 130, and we'll check the moisture probably tomorrow after it cools. I left the plenum temperature, which is basically how hot I want the burners to run, at 180, and that's about it. If I go into info, history, that kind of shows me the information on each batch. So you can see the last one there on the bottom of the screen, 511. It took 4.9 minutes to fill after it dumped, and it took 39.4 minutes to get up to 130 degrees. So that gives me an idea how the dryer is performing, and this is kind of something to keep an eye on. So since I've started drying, I reset at 1, but the dump counter is at 9, so there's been actually 10 dumps out of the dryer since I started drying. We're about ready to do a dump cycle here, so I'll just record it. So what you see there is the temperature of the grain got up to the set point. the fans and the burner both shut off, and the chutes went, and you could see in that one little picture, I missed talking about it, but you could see corn dropping down out of the chutes, and now it's refilling. So that's basically what happens when it completes a dry cycle and starts a new one. So the timer reset up here, but it doesn't really matter much because we have it all based on temperature at 130 degrees. So that's how it's working with corn in it. And right there's enough corn in the top of the dryer now that fan started up again and the burners are about to kick on. So dryer's putting heat to the corn again. So as I said, everything's working really well, so I think I'll just let it do its thing here, and I'll check the generator to make sure it's okay for fuel and everything's good in the generator room. Top up Jenny with some fuel, which is not a big deal. I'm just gonna go get my forklift, grab that transfer tank, fill up the tank in the generator by the generator there, and then I'll fill up the transfer tank again, and then we'll have roughly 200 gallons worth of diesel fuel in there to keep things going. Jenny's fueled up, good for a little bit now. I think I'm going to, I wouldn't say call it a day, but I might go do some other stuff that's kind of boring that you won't really care about. So that's the dryer startup. It's kind of uneventful. It's surprisingly uneventful, which is really good because I don't think you want it eventful. And really happy with how the process has turned out and how easy it is to run and that everything works. I think that was my biggest concern, just making sure everything worked. And now that I know it works, we can probably go full steam at corn when it gets nice again. But right now it looks like it's going to be wet for a little bit. So I got some other jobs to do. And maybe tomorrow I'll give you a tour of my combine and show you how it works. I got to do a little bit of work on it. I think I might put in a special threshing module to help with this higher moisture corn. So with that wraps up my fantastic corn dryer, and we'll see you in the next video.